Whoa, 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 look at this, look at this. This is our local paper. I've made the headlines. Thank you all for joining in and having a go with this. So, let's do this, shall we? The very last chapter and the epilogue. Chapter 19, Hiccup, the Useful. Da, 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 da. And there we go. Who is this handsome fellow, I hear you ask? Well, to be fair, it's just me. So let's go, shall we? So, how does this story end? Chapter 19. Hiccup, the Useful. The 400 Vikings that were now gathered on the cliff top broke into wild cheering for Hiccup and Toothless. They were a strange barbaric sight, all covered in disgusting green dragon snot and slime, but beaming and shouting with the wild delight of those who have just been saved from certain death. All around them, the terrible fight that had just taken place had devastated the landscape. A choking green-grey smoke was hanging around, making it difficult to see, but great chunks of Death's headland appeared to have been torn out by the fight. Avalanches of rock were piled up on the beach. The terrible, mountainous corpse of the purple Death lay in the deeper water. Bits of the green Death's insides and bones were scattered all over the place, while large sections of the heather and ferns were still in flames. However, by some extraordinary miracle, nearly all of the Vikings and their dragons had survived the dreadful battle. I say nearly all because when Toothless crept forward to lick the face of his master with a flickering forked tongue, Stoic noticed a ghastly wound on the little dragon's chest, which was pouring with bright, clean green blood. The talon of the Green Death had pierced the very heart of the supposedly heartless little dragon. Toothless followed Stoic's gaze and looked down for the first time. He let out a squeal of terror, and fainted, dead away. Two days later, Hiccup woke up, aching all over and very, very hungry. It was late at night. He was lying in Stoic's own great bed. The room seemed to be crowded with a great deal of people. Stoic was, of course, there, and Valhallarama, and Old Wrinkly, and Fishlegs, and most of the elders of both tribes. There were dragons there too, Newtbreath and Hookfang snapping and biting around Stoic's legs, and Horrorcow perched on the end of Hiccup's bed. The dragons had flown back as soon as they heard the explosion and realised the masters of Berk were masters once more. Being dragons, they had given no explanation for their disappearance, but they did have the grace to look just a little sheepish. "He's alive!" shouted Stoic in triumph, and everybody began to cheer. Valhallarama gave Hiccup a rousing punch on the shoulder, which is the Viking's equivalent of a really big hug from his mother. "We're all here," said Valhallarama, "willing you to wake up." Hiccup sat straight up in bed, suddenly very awake indeed. "But you're not all here," he said. "Where's Toothless?" Everybody looked a little bit shifty, and nobody would look at Hiccup. Stoic cleared his throat awkwardly. I'm sorry, son," said Stoic, "but he didn't make it. He died just a few hours ago. The rest of the tribe are giving him a hero's funeral at this very moment." "It's a great honour," Stoic continued hurriedly. "He'll be the first dragon ever to be given a proper Viking burial." "How did you know he was dead?" Hiccup demanded. Stoic looked surprised. "Well, you know, the usual. No pulse, no breath, stone cold to the touch. He was quite clearly dead, I'm afraid." "Oh, honestly, father," said Hiccup in a frenzy of exasperation, "don't you know anything about dragons? That could have been a sleep coma. It's a good sign. It probably means he's healing himself. Oh, Thor's whiskers, said Fishlegs. They started that funeral half an hour ago. We've got to stop them, yelled Hiccup. Dragons are only fairly fireproof. They'll burn him alive. Hiccup leapt out of bed with amazing energy under the circumstances. He ran out of the room and out of the house, followed closely by Fishlegs and Horrorcow. Down at Hooligan Harbour, the awesome ceremony of the Viking military funeral was nearly coming to an end. It was an incredible sight, if Hiccup had been in the mood for it. The sky was crammed with stars, the sea was grass flat. The entire tribes of the hooligans and the meatheads were gathered motionless on the rocks, and every single person was carrying a lighted torch in one hand. Even Snotlout was there, at least trying to look solemn, with his helmet off, his head out of respect, and his hair neatly brushed, actually. Good riddance to the newt with wings, he was whispering slyly to Dog's Breath and Dirtbrain, and Dog's Breath sniggered. Serve him right for breaking the law, sneered Fireworm to Seaslug, who was picking his nose on Dog's Breath's shoulder. A replica of a Viking ship had been put out to sea and was drifting swiftly away from the island of Burke, along the path of the moon's reflection, past the weird shapes of Stoic and Moggeron's burnt-out fleet. Hiccup could just see the small body of Toothless laid out in the boat. Beside him lay Stoic's shield, the dragon's tooth, still stuck in it, like a gigantic alien sword. Gobber, the Belch, sounded a mournful signal on his horn. He was now completely recovered after his rather unexpected flight. 26 of Stoic's finest archers, standing to attention at the right of the harbour, lifted their bows into the air. Every bow was loaded with an arrow in flame. No! Yelled Hiccup, with the best yell he had ever yelled. But it was too late. The flaming arrows soared gracefully through the air. They landed on the ship and they set it alight. Some of the crowd on the shore had turned to look upwards, wondering who dared to disturb this most solemn ritual. Hiccup! Shouted Thuggery the Meathead, joyfully recognising the figure on the horizon. There was a murmur of wonder from the crowd as they whispered, Hiccup! Hiccup! To each other, and then shouting and cheering, calling out his name louder and louder. Hiccup! Hiccup! Hiccup's here! Hiccup's alive! Snotlout's jaw dropped open. He looked thoroughly disappointed to see Hiccup very much alive and well. Snotlout could just about take Hiccup as a dead hero, but a living Hiccup, the hero, was going to be very much in the way. Hiccup was watching the burning ship with tears pouring down his face. The boat tipped and the Stoic's shield and the tooth fell into the water. Just as the last piece of the boat was about to slip beneath the waves to be consumed by fire and water, the flames reared up about 20 feet into the sky, and, shooting out of those flames, wings spread like a phoenix, trailing fire from his tail like a comet, came the one and only Toothless. He soared high, 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 high into the stars, leaving a path of flame as he flew. He dived down, down, down towards the sea and swooped at the last minute. To cries of wonder from the spectators, Hiccup was anxious that he might be in pain, until Toothless zoomed low enough over his head for Hiccup to hear the little dragon's rooster cry of triumph. Rawr, rawr! Whatever Toothless's faults may have been, you have to admire his sense of occasion. Common or garden dragons are not normally known for their spectacular flying skills, but even a common or garden dragon on fire is a spectacle within itself. Toothless burned through the night sky like a firework, performing screaming fiery somersaults and flaming loop-the-loops. The crowd, who only a moment before were expected to mourn the deaths of both Toothless and possibly Hiccup, were now beside themselves, hysterically cheering at Toothless as he showered them with sparks. At last, the fire got a little too hot for him, and Toothless plunged into the sea to extinguish himself, only to burst out again and fly straight to Hiccup's shoulder. There he acknowledged the wild applause with solemn bows to the right and to the left, slightly spoiling his dignity with the old cock-a-doodle-oo of smug self-congratulation. Stoic signalled to the crowd for silence, but only so he could boom out the following speech at full blast. Hooligans and meatheads! Terrors of the seas, sons of Thor, and most feared masters of the dragon, I feel humbled to present you with the most recent member of the hooligan tribe. I give you my son, Hiccup the Useful. And the words Hiccup the Useful came tumbling down and down and down, echoing from the hills behind, and were shouted and carried on the night breeze, until the whole world seemed to be yelling and telling Hiccup that maybe he was going to be useful after all. And that, my friends, that is the hard way to become a hero. Epilogue. By Hiccup Horrendous Haddock III, the last of the great Viking heroes. The story doesn't end there, of course. The 19 boys who entered initiation with me all those many years ago were now all allowed into the hooligan and meathead tribes as a result of their heroic actions in defeating 2 Sea Dragoness Giganticus Maximus in one day. The battle at Death's Head Headland has passed into Viking legend and will be sung about by the bards while there are still bards to sing. Of course, there are very few bards left nowadays. What is more, few have seen a Sea Dragoness Maximus since, and people are already starting to disbelieve that such a creature could ever have lived. Learned articles have been written suggesting that something that large simply could not have sustained its own weight. The dragons that would be my evidence have crawled back into the sea where men cannot follow, and what with heroism being so unfashionable nowadays, nobody is going to believe the mere word of a hero like myself. But the thing about dragons, and I am a person who knows about dragons, is that it could very well be that they are merely sleeping down there in the black depths. There could be numberless numbers of them, all frozen in sleep coma, with the unknowing fishes swimming in and out of their tentacles and hiding in their talons and laying eggs in their ears. There may yet come a time when heroes are needed once more. There may yet come a time when the dragons will come back. Now, when that time comes, men will need to know something about how to train them and how to fight them. And I hope that this book will be more helpful to the heroes of the future than a certain book of the same name was to me all those many years ago. It is easy to forget that there were such things as these monsters. I forget myself sometimes, but then I look up as I am looking up now, and I see in my mind's eye a shield, strangely changed by a rich encrusting of jewel-like barnacles and cold water coral, with an 8-foot tooth sticking right out of the middle of it. I reach out, and the edge of that tooth is still so bitingly sharp after all these years that just a gentle brush with the fingers might send a rain of blood down on these pages. I bend my head, not too close, and I am sure that I can just hear very, very faintly, once I set the sea alight with a single fiery breath. Once I was so mighty that I thought my name was Death. Sing out loud until you're eaten a song of melancholy bliss. For the mighty and the middling, all shall come to this. The supper is still singing. Thank you all for your time and for watching these videos and for subscribing and for liking and doing whatever else you've done. I'm overwhelmed. I am absolutely overwhelmed with what's happened over the last week or so with these. They started out as something for 90, 8 and 9 year olds to have a look at, and I've had over 1,600 views of all the videos, I believe, 65 subscribers I think. Thank you, it's brilliant. To all my kids in year 4 at our school, have a great Easter, guys. Hopefully we'll see you before September, hopefully. In the meantime, underneath the header for the channel there's a little thing that says discussion. I think I've decided I'm going to keep going. I'm going to read some more if people would like to hear. Please feel free to put some recommendations down, what you might like to read, what you might like to hear, what I might be able to do for you, and we'll see. And everybody, thank you so much. I really hope you enjoyed that. I've really enjoyed doing it. It takes a long time, it takes a lot long to upload these things, but I've really enjoyed doing it, and I've not done it for me, I've done it for year 4 at our school and for everybody else who's joined in. Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure. Keep your eyes peeled and we'll see what else I can come up with for you. Thank you, everybody. Keep safe.